Welcome back to Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. That was Bob Wischusen. You just heard on the call, ESPN Radio New York, of a Jets 22-16 win in overtime and a walk-off punt return for a touchdown. Jake Brown here alongside Brian Costello, Jets beat writer for the New York Post, on the New York Post Sports YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Kaz, I am full of mixed emotions as I woke up this morning thinking, nice win for the Jets, a walk-off, undrafted rookie, hell of a storyline in the locker room after the game. He had the icy smash chain on his neck. He was all smiles. The locker room was, pretty excited about the victory, as they should be. Victories are hard to come by in the NFL, and to beat the division favorite of the Bills on Monday Night Football and overcome the obstacles was incredible. But we have to start with the main story. Aaron Rodgers, complete tear of his left Achilles tendon. He is out for the season. And it went from all the jubilation of the world, the excitement that Jets fans had, the excitement where I predicted they'd win the Super Bowl last week, which is already out the window. The fireworks, the green lights. I mean, it was an incredible presentation that they did at MetLife Stadium. 4 snaps, 0 for 1, no completions. He gets sacked. Leg turns the wrong way. Ankle turns the wrong way. And it's a torn ACL, and he's done for the season. I mean, this is unprecedented how this happened, that the Jets fans didn't even get to see a singular completion from Rodgers. After Hard Knocks, one Jets drive, the hoopla, the season tickets sold, everything from A to Z. And it's over just like that. I mean, can you believe what we just witnessed?
Yes and no, right? I mean, I think, I'm skeptical, Jake, and I've seen a lot of bad things happen to the Jets, and I kind of expect bad things to happen to the Jets. And when you made your Super Bowl pick, you said, oh, well, if everything goes right for the Jets, they'll win the Super Bowl. And I said, well, it's pretty rare when everything goes right for the Jets. I did think you'd get more than 4 plays, though, before things went terribly wrong. And I know, Jake, I've caught a lot of flack for my prediction, and there's Jets fans always think I don't like the team or whatever, trolling them. I feel terrible for Jets fans.
Thank you for that. I hope you feel bad, because the 4 snaps is too little.
I feel terrible. I mean, like you said, the pregame was electric. Jets did a great job with it, and they really did a nice job. And the place was rocking. Jake, I don't think the smoke had cleared from the fireworks before Rodgers was coming off the field. That's how quick it turned. So yeah, it's brutal. It's devastating. I can't remember a team ever being built around one football player as much as this team was built around Aaron Rodgers. You guys saw it in Hard Knocks, right? It was remember Ulbrich in the first, this is our quarterback. We can win any game with him at quarterback. They bring in his friends, whether it's Cobb or Lazard or Billy Turner or Nathaniel Hackett. It's
Tim Boyle, who might have a role now.
Everything was built around him, right? Everything. And that's, you see that in basketball. You don't usually see that in football, where one guy basically is the even great quarterbacks, it's pretty rare when this happens. So for it to go like this so quickly is just, it's hard to believe, Jake. It's just, and I feel terrible for Jets fans. I feel terrible for the people that work for the Jets. And I'm not talking necessarily about coaches. I feel bad for all them and stuff, but I think people, people that did, Jake, the people that work like in ticket sales or just the business office or the cafeteria, like these people, like they work for the Jets. Everyone in their lives knows that, right? Everyone they run into, the town they live in, knows they work for the Jets, talks about the Jets. For so long, they've just been the butt of jokes to those people. And then since like April, I think I said this back at the time of the trade, they had something to be proud of and excited about. Now to get smacked down again like this, I think I saw a lot of people that just looked numb last night, Jake, that worked for the Jets. And just crazy to think, not just an injury, but a season-ending injury. And who knows if he can come back from this. I wouldn't bet against him, but he's going to be 40 years old. It's a tough rehab. Does he have it in him? I don't think we'll know the answers to that for a little while, but it's tough, Jake.
When I went to bed, I went on my own darkness retreat. I felt like every Jets fan needed to go on a darkness, because the shift of emotions from that. I mean, you could hear it went from electric to a pin drop. Like no one knew how to react. Everyone's checking Twitter. They're watching the game on their phone, seeing if there was an update. And then for it to end like with a walk-off punt return that's how that game would end because listen, Zach Wilson wasn't god awful, but he wasn't good. He was right in between.
Yeah. Well, I think Jake, just looking forward, right? And if you want some optimism here from me, I do think the Jets can win this way. And they won last night. I do think they showed this last year. If they play great defense and they can run the ball and they can, pop a special teams play every now and then, whether it's a punt return or a block punt, like they did last year in Green Bay. We saw it, that stretch from Pittsburgh to Buffalo last year where Zach was playing. That's what I think you're going to get this year. You're going to get some games where they can gut out a win because they have those elements, and then you're going to get some games where he throws 3 interceptions and they have no chance, or they run in like this week's a tough opponent. They run into a really good team. The formula might not work, but against the Patriots in 2 weeks, they could beat the Patriots playing that way. I know you were thinking Super Bowl. I don't think you're going to think Super Bowl right now, but I do still think a wild card is possible for this team. With Zach Wilson, he was okay. The wheels came off in New England for him last year, and what he said after the game and how he played, but he lost his confidence completely. But remember, to me last year, them losing Brees was the biggest thing. That was what kind of ruined the formula, right?
And he looked explosive immediately last night.
Great last night, yeah. So if they can run the ball, play with some leads, play defense, and score some non-offensive touchdowns, but that's not sustainable, right? Everything I just said is not sustainable. That's not a formula to win 13 games. That's a formula to win maybe 9 games. And so, but I don't think the season is lost. I don't think they're going to win 3 games. I think they can do better than that.
They'll win games, and that's what makes this whole thing so disheartening because the talent is incredible. The defense, Jordan Whitehead earned a $250,000 bonus because of one night of 3 interceptions. You talked about, I don't know if he's that good as Saleh says. Saleh said after the game, he was 4 away for last year for being an all-pro safety. Yeah. Well, what a start he's off to, owning Josh Allen, who made throws. I don't even know why. One of those interceptions, he had 30 yards to run on the left side of the field.
I know.
He decides to lob it. The Jets own Josh Allen, it feels like. So hats off to Whitehead and the defense because they owned him last night.
That was a big takeaway from this game, Jake, is the Bills are not as good as they've been, right? I'm not trying to take anything away from the Jets winning the game, but how did the Bills not win that game? The Jets lost their starting quarterback 4 plays into the game, and the Bills are supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. You step on their throats and win the game. Like 4 turnovers by Josh Allen is incredible. They really couldn't run the ball that well. They did okay, but nothing explosive. What was their most explosive play, Jake? Do you know?
Somewhere. Maybe the Diggs touchdown was not. It was explosive because everyone thought he crossed the line of scrimmage. The replay. What did you think of that? Was that legal?
No, you know what? You only have to have a portion of your body behind the line of scrimmage. So if his toe was behind the line of scrimmage, it's fine. Bill's longest play was 26 yards. An Allen pass to Gabe Davis in the second quarter, and then after that, 18 yards. So they only had one play of 20 yards or more. So that's that's. And
he was sacked 5 times. We said this team's going to sack the quarterback a lot this year. They put a ton of pressure on him, and it really reminds you of the 2009-2010 run. The team now that the difference was that team had an elite offensive line. This is not an elite offensive line. That's the major difference here. But you had an elite defense. You had a quarterback who just kind of had to be mistake free, and you had a tremendous running game.
This defense is better, Jake.
Yeah,
this defense is better
and that's why we can't throw in the towel in here that the season's over.
That defense didn't have a pass rush. That defense did not have a pass rush. Rex used to have to manufacture blitzes and do some gimmicky stuff to get pressure on the quarterback. This team can rush 4 and get to the quarterback. And are they Revis Cromartie? I don't know, but they're good. So the back end is close enough. Yeah, you're right, though. The offensive line is a big difference. That was a great offensive line, and they were number 1 in the league in rushing. I don't think this team can do that. and I do think Mark Sanchez is better than Zach Wilson.
Yes, 100%. He's better, and of course, he made a tweet joke about a guy and fumbling and running to in a butt last night. But back to the Rodgers stuff. I mean, you're right. From A to Z, you just feel like the ticket sales were through the roof. And now, how do you sell?
Yeah.
It's like come out in a few weeks to see Zach Wilson against the team he saw a ghost against. Like, I mean, how do you sell it now to the fan? And like the posters, the jerseys. Think of all the fans who got road trips who are like, I don't think I'm going to do the Vegas trip now. I don't know if I want to go. I mean, it's that big of a difference.
Walking out of the stadium, Jake, I saw people with Rodgers jerseys, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
It's a phantom jersey now. And you're right. He's 40 in December. Like, he's going to try to come back because he's not going to go down without being the quarterback for the Jets for a year. But can he? Can the body recover at 40 years old next year? He's going to try. I don't think he's just going to give up. But what a turn of events he did. But do you think he can, at 40 years old, come back from an Achilles injury like this?
Well, if he tries, I think he can do it. I think he's an amazing athlete who takes care of his body. But I saw Damian Woody, our good friend, on ESPN this morning, and Achilles would end Damian's career. And he basically said he tried for 2 months and then was like, the hell with this. Like, this is too hard. And Damian wasn't 40, but he was older at that point. And said, he was done. He just couldn't do the rehab. I don't know. He was close to retiring this offseason. So now does he want to stare down the barrel of whatever it is, 10 months of rehab? And he seems to enjoy his life in California. Can he do it there? Does he have to be here? Like, it's not an easy thing, Jake.
And we talked all the offseason about, in a preseason training camp about the tutelage that he provided Zach Wilson. I think it'd be helpful if he's there on the sidelines and, in his ear the entire game. I think that would be massive help for him. And, he could still play a role for this team in that way, like he did for Zach in preseason. Can you see that being a possibility?
Eventually, I think physically he's not going to be able to do it, though. I mean, my understanding is that Achilles, you get surgery right away. So I would expect to have surgery this week. So, like, it's not like he's going to be on the sideline at Dallas. No. I would expect him. It's probably a few weeks before he'd even be allowed on the sideline by his doctors. Now, could he be up in a booth or something? Maybe. I think at some point he's going to have a role, and I think he'll be in the building during the week and helping in meetings and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's great, Jake, but it only goes so far. It's the losing him on the field is a killer.
Let's talk about the other issue with this injury. And, you hear it from the players on Twitter. You heard from Bakatari, DJ Reed, Dory Jackson was just on the Fan talking about it. Randall Cobb talked in the locker room. How do you not have grass? I mean, players hate the turf. MetLife Stadium used grass for this summer's Arsenal Manchester United match. 8 stadiums have to do the same for the World Cup in 2026. Real Madrid just built an underground storage system that can replace an entire field. There is so much money going around in this sport to the players. These owners are filthy rich. There shouldn't be a GoFundMe from players, from fans to create grass. There's billions and billions of dollars in this sport. How you don't have a safer playing field? You have a dump of a stadium. You have no roof on this stadium. It was raining for hours. I had to hear 8 billion times from the guy in the loudspeaker, stay in your place, student. There is thunder. Please be okay. The same thing. I had nightmares to that. The field was soaked. How do you not have grass here? It is so much safer. The scientifically proven, and every player in the league will vouch for grass. And this sport makes too much money, Kaz, for there still to be turf. It's a joke.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this injury is related to turf or not, Jake. My understanding with Achilles is like it's going to happen, and it'll happen at some point. Like, and I wonder, he had the calf strain in the spring. Was that related? Was that like a sign this was coming? Because they say that like doctors can tell that someone's Achilles is going to snap, and it happens.
But we see this at MetLife Stadium. It's happened multiple times.
It's not usually Achilles, though. It's usually ACLs, right? ACLs are usually what the people complain about. Their foot gets stuck in the turf, they tear their ACL. They replaced the turf, Jake. They're trying. I would say this. I don't know all the specifics. I don't know how much money it costs. I don't know what the science is. If they could have, like you're saying, like Real Madrid has, and have a grass underneath or something. But they showed it on ESPN last night. I believe there was 2 concerts there Thursday, Friday. Carol G, whose work I'm not familiar with. Jake,
Spanish singer, very good,
okay, very
beautiful,
good.
great
Okay,
singer.
so I believe she had 2 sold out concerts at MetLife Thursday, Friday. I attended 3 concerts at MetLife this summer. There's concerts there quite a bit. So they 2 concerts there. Then the Giants played their Sunday night, and then the Jets played their Monday night. All right, if it's grass, odds are by Monday night you're complaining about the grass being torn up and not being in good condition, right? We've heard that in Miami before, when the Hurricanes play there one night, the Dolphins play there the next day. Oh, the grass is terrible. So I'm just using logic here. I have no idea about turf science, but I would think a grass field would be very hard to maintain in a multi-use facility like MetLife. They use that place. I'd be curious how many days out of the year there's an event there. It's a lot. And yeah, if they built it like, Arizona has the system where the trays come in and out, but they didn't build it like that. And I'm going to guess it's hard to retrofit a stadium to do that. So I just don't know what. I'm sure doing it for one day of soccer isn't that hard. Doing it permanently might be difficult. So I just think that's probably the argument against, Jake. But at some point,
but it's a silly argument because of this, because those events you're talking about are all pretty much summer. By the time the Jets Giants are fully in effect, besides the first couple weeks, those you don't have a concert in November.
No, but you have concerts in September. You have concerts in September. You have
the first month it affects. After that, it doesn't.
I think you probably have concerts in October. You probably do.
No? Hearts, check the schedule. I don't know if there's any in October.
I don't know, but but even Jets and Giants playing there, like just go there, and then I know this. There's high school football there in November and December. They play the state playoffs there, and so like you're using it there. I'm sure, and I think there's college games there from time to time. I just think it's a heavy use stadium. Yeah, would it be? And the problem is, Jake, it's not. You're right. It wouldn't be every single week, but if it's just once, right? And they come out Monday Night Football, let's say this last night, and they had 4 events there, and the grass is just torn up, and it's looking terrible, right? It looks terrible on Monday Night Football. People are killing them for that. You know that. Oh my God.
I still think it would be safer. By the way, no other non-sports events till next May. Okay. So it's only football from now. Yeah. So it was only first week. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, football takes a toll on it. I mean, I'm not opposed. I look, whatever they need to do for player safety, they should do. I'm trying to push back on what I'm guessing is the argument against it. That's probably it.
It's just frustrating.
The NFL cites these studies that say turf is more dangerous, which the hell with that. Like, I don't care even about let's not even talk about like injuries to your knees and Achilles stuff. Jake, I don't know how much time you've spent on turf. I've coached softball, right? Mm-hmm. Our home field is a turf field. I get down on like a knee to catch a kid, and I get up and I'm covered in these rubber pellets. I don't know, like this can't be good. Like they're getting in the kids' mouths, they're getting in kids' eyes. Like I worry about what we're gonna find out like about these rubber pellets in 30 years. Like it just seems like it's a bad situation to me.
This sport there's just too much money in this sport for it to not just do it. Pay the money, protect your players, because there's not a single player that will say, "Oh, I love the turf." Like we were talking, the guy Randall Cobb immediately said, "I hate it." Players hate it. Players are tweeting. It's nonstop across the board. Like players are at the point they will fund it. I mean, Dory Jackson just said in the fan, I would be part of funding and that shouldn't be the case. Players shouldn't have to take money out of their contracts to fund a field that these billion-dollar owners and the sport could pay for. So that's something that's got to get on top of the stadium just sucking. The billion-dollar stadium, you can't even get like a steak sandwich in the place. I mean, come on. So that's frustrating. But
a steak sandwich, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean the food there is not great. Well, they did have chicken parm in the media for me last night, which was nice. Grilled chicken parm though, which is a little interesting. We won't focus on that. There's too many topics to talk about because I'm sorry, I still don't trust Zach Wilson. And I think it would be a disservice to this team and to the fan base if Joe Douglas doesn't bring someone in. Listen, I know the options aren't great. All right, let me go through the list because I still think some of these are better.
Give me him.
One of the top ones on my list is a guy who's had a serviceable career that you would have to trade for is Jacoby Brissett. 48 touchdowns, 23 picks. He started in 48 games. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but he's better than Zach Wilson.
Let me just give like you guys think this is Madden, right? And the playbook, you just come in, boom. These guys have spent the entire offseason learning this offense. Now you're going to say, hey, come in, play the offense in 2 weeks. Now, if there's some guy who has played for Nathaniel Hackett before or played in the same system, sure, but I don't know who that is. And like, you got to roll with Zach. They put their eggs in Zach's basket once they said he was a backup quarterback in March. Like, this has been the plan.
For now, but you have to bring in help, Cod. You can't have Zach Boyle done.
No, I agree with that. But the guy's a backup. He's not coming in to play over Zach. No, you have. Well,
if Zach struggles, you got to replace him. I think the leash has to be shorter than last year on Zach.
The replacement might be in 2 months, Jake. I like, no one's coming in here and learning this offense overnight. Like, it's just not happening. And then if they have to play, you're dumbing down the offense. Like, I just don't see who they can bring in.
Let me lay out all the options.
Anyone who's available on September 12th
is available for a reason. I know.
Bingo.
Let me just go through them because I'll do service to the listeners and go through the list.
If you say Tom Brady, I'm leaving the pod.
He's on my list, but he's not a realistic.
I'm leaving the pod. If they say Tom Brady, just so you're warned.
I won't even
say it.
No, I won't mention Jacoby Brissett. Okay, back-to-back years with injuries, but a guy who could sling it, you would have to trade for the backup of the Saints, who's not going to play, Jameis Winston. Listen, I don't think he would do great here in New York. I worry about him. But the guy was 5-2 before the ACL cost him the year in 2021. 2022, he had a back injury. He's not going to touch the field with the Saints. So Jameis Winston is an option. I know you're hating it, but how could he not? How could he not be an option? He's not a bum. Jameis Winston's not a bum, Kaz. Come on. Kaz is a nap time. All right, let me still go.
I wouldn't call anyone a bum, Jake. I don't like that term, but I don't think Jameis. I like clarify. Like, you're talking about backup, right?
For now, but if Zach struggles, they replace him. For now, backup.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah. Is he better than Tim Boyle? Yeah, but
yes.
It's just like and you're trading for Jameis is on the Saints, right? He re-signed with the Saints.
Probably be like a 4th round pick. I'd imagine, maybe 5th round pick.
Like that's
they're giving up a second now for Rodgers. It goes from a first to a second now, so they kept their first.
Silver lining here. But the Saints need a backup quarterback, so I don't know if they're giving up
Tim Boyle for Jameis Winston straight up. All right, so that's that's just towards the top. I'm just talking guys who have experience. Another intriguing name who has had some success as a backup recently. Listen, you might shake your head, but Cooper Rush is the guy they're going to play this week. Interesting option because the Cowboys have Trey Lance as a backup, so Cooper Rush is probably not going to touch the field. Trey Lance is younger. I wouldn't have an issue with Cooper Rush. I wouldn't have an issue with Cooper Rush. What do you think about Cooper Rush?
Trey Lance is not touching the field this year. He's learning the offense. Cooper Rush is their backup.
You don't think a 3rd round pick could get,
a 3rd round pick? You're going to go a 3rd round pick for a backup quarterback?
I'm telling you, I'm worried about Zach. I don't think I think you're not throwing in the towel with Zach, but I don't know if the guys in the locker room love this guy offensively. They've seen him suck, and they supported Mike White. Got T-shirts and rallied for Mike White. Letting Mike White go looks like a mistake now.
I think they couldn't pay him and pay Rodgers and pay Zach. So I do think Zach has overcome what happened last year. I think people are impressed with how he handled himself this offseason. He seems a lot more mature. He seems a lot more confident. I don't think he'll have a problem in the locker room. Look, if he plays terribly, he'll have a problem. But I don't think his teammates will be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he's the quarterback." Like, if he does what he did last night, if he can throw for a touchdown and an interception and 140 yards, and they play good defense and run the ball, he'll be fine.
They play so conservative with it. It's like you could tell they just do not trust him down the field, and it's frustrating when you got guys like Garrett Wilson just making the catch of his life last night.
They were, Jake, but remember, he had no reps. He has had no reps with the first team at all. So now this week he can get a couple practices in, and then next week more. I do think the coaches can trust him more if he gets a little more work with the starters. And he was playing scout team last week. He was Josh Allen. So that's important. Like they had to be conservative. Who knows how much of the game plan he was even ready for.
This is deja vu. We're talking about Zach Wilson, Jets starting quarterback, and we're in week 1. I mean, what is this franchise? My God. First Edwin Diaz, Now Aaron Rodgers, double whammy, a buy one, get one free special. Good God, it's unbelievable. All right, the rest of the list. Tyler Huntley is an interesting name. You know, I love rushing quarterbacks, so I would have no problem with Tyler Huntley. You got Davis Mills is he's a backup of the Texans. He's an option. Brandon Allen.
These
I'm
teams
just
aren't going
laying
to
names
trade their
out there.
backup quarterbacks. Jake, you got to go with guys who are on the street.
Well, the guy on the street is Carson Wentz, and I don't know how. I mean, he has experience. I don't know.
All right. What that's a Dustin Keller jersey there. What's it behind? What's the other one? City Field. Shay, what is that behind you?
City Field. Yeah.
All right. Just you might want to cover it with a sheet before your blood from your head exploding splatters all over your wall. I'll give you this one, Jake.
Oh God, Matt Ryan.
Joe Flacco.
I knew that was coming. Oh my God, Broadway Joe. Oh my God. Do you think that's even like in the card? Like, is he capable of playing? Like,
they know him. Like you know, they know him. The players know him. I mean, he hasn't been in this offense, but I would, if I'm looking at that all your list, I think Joe Flacco is more likely than any of those guys.
Really?
You're giving up money. So. You're giving up money. You're not giving up a draft pick. And not much money.
I think it's a disservice if you're not willing to trade for one of these guys. Like, if you can't give him a fourth, Brissett can lead the Jets to the playoffs.
How many games did Joe Flacco start last year for the Jets?
I don't want
four, right? First three, right? Was first three.
I forgot he was on the team last year.
And then the last game of the season. So this is a guy that this coaching staff and this general manager trusted to start 4 games last year. Over Mike White, mind you, the first 3. So, like, to think that it's absurd that they would bring him back in. I don't think it is.
Started 4, played in 5. Just the name. I can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. It's just Matt Ryan. Does he come out of broadcasting? Colt McCoy, but he is an elbow injury. I don't think Colt McCoy would be an option. But I think you trade for one. I think you trade for a Brissett or a Winston. Malik Willis is another guy. I don't think they go that route. He's not very good. But Nick Foles. Nick Foles, does that intrigue? You need someone kind of mobile because this offensive line is not great. So those are the options. We'll see what they do. But right now it's Zach Wilson's team. You know, the win itself, Kaz, we haven't really talked about. Let's do that for a few minutes before we close up shop here. Xavier Gipson, hell of a storyline. You know, undrafted rookie, runs back the kick. I know there was probably a tripping there that didn't get called. But either way, the Jets would have been in field goal range, even with that tripping call there. So they probably still win. It almost didn't go to overtime. That doink in, I was like, they're going to lose. I mean, when that went to overtime, I was like, no shot they win. They find a way on a miraculous punt return. But a cool little storyline, Kaz, and a guy who we didn't even know if he was going to make the team, winning that game. And then Salah being one of the first guys to tackle him in the end zone in celebration was kind of a cool video and a happy moment after the pain they had to go through.
Yeah, I talked to Xavier for a while Friday. Just really nice guy, Jake. And just, you know, he told me there was times where he doubted he was going to make the team during training camp. He wasn't sure. And he had some tough times there. But he showed, you could see it watching the preseason games, right? More so than training camp practices. Preseason, you could see his explosiveness on punt returns. And that really caught your eye. And then he had, I think, 7 catches against the Giants in that last preseason game. Rodgers called him out. Mentioned him. So I thought, what a great story for him. Just awesome to see someone, we focus, Jake, so much on the NFL draft, right? And there's 250 guys or whatever that are drafted. And then this guy that nobody wanted wins a game in week 1. Like, how cool is that? And it just shows like what an inexact science the draft is. How could no one draft this guy if he has that kind of return ability? So cool story. Amazing win, Jake. I mean, it's lost because of Rodgers, but what an amazing win. I can't remember a grittier win than that in a long time. I would have to think hard about that because they could have folded it up pretty easily after Rodgers got hurt, and I thought they were going to. And the defense just kept them in the game, and then the offense did enough, and big special teams play, and they won a division game, which is something they haven't done a lot of in recent years. So just an awesome win for them.
Yeah, and back to back now against the Bills, they've beaten them at MetLife Stadium. It seems like they've owned Josh Allen. And listen, there may not be a team more in the NFL that's now, especially that special teams is going to be more important than the Jets. Like they're going to have to come away with 5 or 6 special teams touchdowns. And Greg the Leg was great, and Greg Zuerlein's going to have to make every kick. They're going to have to make as little mistakes as possible defensively and special teams. They're going to have to come up with defensive touchdowns. We've seen it, like you said, with Zach in the past. They found ways during that stretch to win with the help of special teams defense, if he just doesn't turn it over. So, it's not doom and gloom completely because there's so much talent on this roster, but doom and gloom for the Super Bowl because it would be a stunner if this team went into January now with Zach Wilson and, maybe Jacoby Brissett and found a way to beat teams like Patrick, even Mahomes, what happened with them.
Joe
like
Flacco wins and beats the Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Listen, imagine it would be a hell of a story. I mean, the fact they won makes it a pretty intriguing story because the usual Jets story is Rodgers out for the year, they lose to the Bills, season over. But the fact they won, it makes it very. But like you said, whatever happens, it's overreaction Tuesday. I think there is no overreaction today. No. It's very middle reaction Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a happy victory Tuesday either. I can't say happy victory Tuesday, Kaz.
Yeah, no, I don't think Jets fans know how to feel today. And I thought Saleh, it looked like last night, he didn't know how to feel. Now the players were happy. Jake, you were in the locker room, they were happy. I don't think Saleh told them that it was an Achilles. It seemed like we were telling them that. Mm-hmm. So I think he let them celebrate the victory, and they were all pumped up. So I'm curious to see what the mood is like tomorrow when we're back in the locker room and they're back at work.
And listen, NFL wins is tough to come by, and yes, in the locker room, guys were pretty damn happy because that win you should be. You can't just doom and gloom in week 1 because your quarterback is gone. Well, Kaz, we will have a preview show Thursday for Jets Cowboys with Zach Wilson. I just cannot believe I didn't even get to see a completion. I was just Rodgers to Wilson. Now it's once again Wilson to Wilson. We'll close out this episode of Gangs All Here next. All right. It closes up episode 147 of Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz for helping me in producing the show. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Watch us on the New York Post Sports YouTube page. Give us a thumbs up. Comment below. Do the Jets stick with Zach Wilson, or do you bring in a quarterback here? And who do you want? Just insane, guys. Like the shift, the park, like it starts, you get there and there's a lockdown. Everyone's like, stay in your cars. Everyone stay in the press box. Don't go to seats. So everything's already pushed back. But by kickoff, almost everyone was in their seats. Shout out to, the fire department, everyone, who lost their lives on 9/11, by the way. A great tribute there. I cannot believe it's been 22 years since that tragic day in New York. My dad was in the city that day, could see all the smoke from the roof of where he was working in Manhattan. So you never forget where you were. I was in third grade. I was 10 years old, elementary school in Connecticut. I remember getting the news and coming home and my mom crying and, so we'll never forget that day. So good tribute there by the Jets. The building's rocking. The lights in the beginning. Everyone had the green on their wrist or whatever it was. And the fireworks. It was unbelievable. Rodgers comes out. I mean, this is what everyone's been waiting for. All the hoopla. And then his second pass attempt. Dwayne Brown kind of missed the block a little bit. I know some people want to blame him in the offensive line. Lazard was open. Rodgers could have got rid of it. He waited a little too long. And he just fell awkwardly. And I know Kaz said he didn't know. I think if you watch the video, I think the turf does play a role in that. Now, you can't blame it for one individual thing. All right, we're fixing it now. It just happens too much for it not to be fixed. I know it's probably cost a lot, but they have the money. The sport has the money. The Jets have the money. There needs to be grass. And like we just said, there's no events after, this past week. After Carol G, there's nothing till May. It's all just football. So, and you rarely have times where teams play back-to-back days like Jets Giants. Like this doesn't happen almost ever. And the other factor with this is, holy cow, we got 5 more primetime games of Zach Wilson. Remember when they laid this out and the Jets have 6 primetime games, Rodgers in primetime. Now it's once again Zach Wilson in primetime, which gives me the memories of the Jaguars game in December and the ineptitude that we saw. Of course you're rooting for him, Jets fans. You have to root for the guy to do well because he is the guy right now. But you can't hate on Jets fans for not having trust. It's deja vu. We've seen pure ineptitude from him. So until we see greatness, you can't believe he's going to be great. Now, it'd be a hell of a story if Zach Wilson led the Jets to the Super Bowl. But I'm guaranteeing you no one's putting money on the Jets to win the Super Bowl right now. Although the odds are probably, it's such a long shot now, it might be worth a few shekels with how good this defense is. And it's just frustrating because will he come back? Will, at 40 years old, will Aaron Rodgers come back next season? I think he's going to try out of dignity and his heart. He's not going to want to go down like this. Ego, like he's going to try. The question is, will he, and can he do it successfully? And will the Aaron Rodgers era with the Jets ever happen? That's what's just so disheartening about this to the fan base. It's not fair. And if you're a Mets and a Jets fan, it's not fair. Back to back. Diaz hurt. Mets end up sucking. Rodgers hurt. Now we find out if the Jets will suck. But right now, they're in first place and 1-0. I mean, an improbable victory. It was an ugly victory, but a win is a win is a win is a win. I worry that Dallas is going to trounce them. I don't know. The Jets even so good, they might not give up a lot of points, but I could see like a 24-6 kind of thing. We'll preview that game on Thursday's episode, but oh, the pain, in the words of the great Joe Beningo. I mean, you cannot believe it. 4 minutes in, 4 snaps, 1 pass attempt, and he ends the Jets season with 0 completions. You feared at this age that he could get hurt, the conditions, you never know, and it happened. And it just, you just feel for Jets fans. And if you're one of the person laughing or you're like, oh, I told you so, like, get a life. You need help. So we'll see what happens from here. It's the Zach Wilson show. I cannot believe it. I hate saying it, but now you just got to hope Zach Wilson can be, good enough, and the defense continues to be elite, special teams continues to be great, and they find ways to win. We'll preview Jets Cowboys Sunday, 4:00. We'll preview that on Thursday's episode of Gangs All Here. Follow me on Twitter at Jake Brown Radio. Again, watch the show on New York Post Sports YouTube page and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. We will talk to you all Thursday. Thanks for listening to Gangs All Here. Be safe, everybody.